Stop stealing the napkins.
I'm pro the napkin boy, man. I like napkins.
Okay.
I'm stealing napkins.
Stop stealing the napkins. I really like Catullus's poetry, and I am not huge into poetry as much as I am into prose, which may be surprising considering the grand majority of what we've done on this channel is poetry. But it's a newer like of mine. I really didn't like it a lot earlier in my life, but we read a Catullus poem in AP English senior year. I do not remember which poem it was, but I remember being shocked about how like dirty it was. And our teacher was like, yeah, this is not even a bad one from Catullus. You should look them up if you want to like read more like this. And I didn't, but I always remember that moment. And a few weeks ago, I like Googled like mad to find the dirty like Roman poet. And eventually I did find him, which was good. And it's everything I wanted and more. So this one is very simple. It's called Stop Stealing the Napkins to ASINIUS, MARRUCINUS, just to his friend. So would anyone like to be the very angry Catullus?
ASINIUS, MARRUCINUS, you don't employ your left hand too well in wine and just, you take neglected table linen. Do you think that's witty? Get lost, you fool. It's such a sordid and such an unattractive thing. Don't you believe me? Believe Pollionus, your brother, who wishes your thefts could be fixed by money. He's a boy truly stuffed with wit and humor. So expect 300 hendecasyllables or return my napkin, whose value doesn't disturb me truly. It's a remembrance of my friends. FABULLUS and Varanius sent me the gift, napkins from Spain. They must be cherished, as my Varanius and FABULLUS must be.
Give back the napkin.
What the heck is
Very straightforward.
yeah.
He wants the napkins back.
Hendecasyllable?
Yeah, what the heck?
It's a type of poem. And so he's basically threatening him, being like, I will write you 300 poems until you return my napkins.
I'm just gonna keep shit talking you until you give me my napkin back.
That is quite the threat.
Sassy.
It's very sassy. What I also like about Catullus, and I found this also in the Shakespearean sonnets, where there's actually a story in all these poems. FABULLUS, and I think Varanius too, they both come back in other poems, and he writes poems to those characters. So we get to kind of follow the drama of a day-to-day Roman with like stolen napkins. It's quite fun.
Very fun.
Do they get the napkin back?
Well, there is a follow-up, I think,
Whoa.
to if we go down to 25. It's called My Things Back, Please. To THALLUS. Who is a different person, but it has a very similar vibe. So I feel like his friends just like keep stealing his stuff.
This also says my and Spanish napkin.
Very similar napkin. Someone want to read this one?
Thallus the sodomite, softer than rabbit's fur, or goose grease, or the little tip of the ear, or an old man's slack penis moldy with spider webs. Ew. And that same Thallus, more rapacious than a wild storm. When the sea goddess reveals the yawning breakwaters, return my cloak you pounce on, and Spanish napkin, the Bithynian painted wear. Absurd, man, that you own openly like heirlooms. Now unglue them from your talons and return them, lest those soft little flanks and tender fingers are shamefully written over with the mark of the lash, and you toss immoderately like a paltry boat, caught in a heavy sea, in a raging wind. I don't know half these words, wait.
So
dictionary?
in the previous poem, when he got his napkin stolen, he was like, I will write you poetry until you give me back my napkins. This person has stolen more things, and he's basically like, I will like lash your tender fingers, like I will smack your fingers until you give me back your napkins.
The last threat was only for poetry, and this threat is for physical violence. So things escalated quite a lot in like 13 poems.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got real mad. My things back, please.
Why do people like to steal this guy's stuff so much?
Also, there's a lot more like name calling in this one and like making fun of.
It kind of feels like he's just living in a frat house and he keeps having like keggers and people come over and just out and he's like, "Can I have one, please?" And they're like,
I think especially more the first one, I kind of got like Luna Lovegood vibes of like everyone stealing like her shoes and stuff.
Really?
But this one, not Luna.
Yeah.
At least the response, like maybe that's still why people are like, that energy is like getting walked all over by these friends that are just coming around. But
it just feels like he has friends over, has these big parties. Everybody gets drunk. He passes out in the corner over there, and then somebody's like, "Oh, I like this pot. I'm going to take this pot. This is cool." And then they like leave with it.
They do have parties, and he's very extravagant at the parties. We can skip to 13, which is right after Stop Stealing the Napkins. He invites Fabulous, which is not pronounced fabulous, but it's spelled fabulous. He invites Fabulous to a party. Says, "You'll dine well in a few days with me if the gods are kind to you, my dear Fabulous. And if you bring lots of good food with you, and don't come without a pretty girl, and wine and wit and all your laughter, I say you'll dine well and charmingly if you bring all that, since your Catullus's purse, alas, is full of cobwebs. But accept endearments in return for the wine, or whatever's sweeter and finer, since I'll give you a perfume my girl was given by the Loves and Cupids, and when you've smelt it, you'll ask the gods to make you Fabulous, all nose."
Oh, you like it so much that you would wish your whole body was a nose to appreciate it more? I like that.
Like it.
It smells that good.
The first half, there's like this hidden thing, which is like, "Oh yes, you'll dine well with me if you bring the food and the women and the entertainment and the wine, because I don't have any money. But if you bring all of that,
we'll have a great time."
I got this perfume. I'll smell good.
you'll wish you were a nose."
I mean, so this is obviously irrelevant to anything, but if you make a Gogol reference where the nose refers to penis, and considering the story of the nose, how it's a whole weird status flex, that kind of makes sense. Like you're just like schlonging it in, and then all you do is flex your status of money. In reality, all we care about is your status of money. We don't care about you, kind of thing. Which I kind of relate, bro. Like, yo, this guy sucks, but like, yo, he's got the good stuff. Like, we gotta invite him, but we don't like him, so only bring the good stuff.
It doesn't last long. In 23, we find out that Furious, not Fabulous, is even poorer than Catullus.
Is this a series of poems kind of like similar to, like, they all like seem to line up in a story like relatable to the Shakespeare sonnets?
I would say it's pretty comparable in the fact that I don't think either were designed to be published in this order. They were all like individual things. But because they were written in order personally about somebody's life, there is a story that comes out. Yeah.
Naturally, I guess.
Yeah, basically. It's like he writes a poem about someone stealing his napkins, then he writes a poem about like getting the napkins back. It's like those were two separate events, but like we can see them as a story reading the book. But we can also read them as individual vignettes as well.
There's just so much emotion, and it's all like angry.
He's very much.
I have to say, he's very dramatic.
Yeah.
Which I'm all for.
He does have some more like. Yeah, he's got like serious poems where he's talking about like historic poems, like telling the story of Aphrodite and Cupid doing this and whatever. But like, then there's these, which I think are a lot more fun, junk food poetry.
Junk food poetry is a pretty solid genre. Like digestible, funny.
There's even two about like two separate men having really bad, disgusting teeth.
I can relate to that. Like your mouth whack.
Like your mouth or like telling other people?
We can go to them.
I just want to know which part Marat related to.
Oh, me. Your mouth.
Like, that's relatable. Like you tell people that.
Oh, it's like, yeah, the old time, like, yo, kids, all right, repeat after me. Your mouth stink. Your mouth. Good job, good English.
I don't know if this one will even go on the podcast, but if we want to read 97, we can have a laugh about it.
Okay.
Rob, why don't you read it since you've related to it?
I relate so much to it. Like, okay, I can relate. Okay. I did not, may the gods love me, think it mattered whether I might be smelling AEMILIUS's mouth or ours. The one's no clear, the other's no dirtier, no cleaner. In fact, his arse is both cleaner and nicer, since it's no teeth.
Yikes.
Indeed, the other has foot-long teeth, gums like an old box cart, and jaws that usually gape like the open of a pissing mule on heats. He flirts with women and makes himself to be charming, and isn't sent to the mill with the ass. Shouldn't we think of any girl touching him, she's capable of licking a foul hangman's arse.
There's some bad teeth.
Brutal.
That's some bad teeth. Yeah,
And
I
like that
see
he writes,
bad teeth.
it's just like, this guy needs to know.
Basically just a diss track.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In fact, like, dude, honestly, a famous rapper should just put this in its current state in one of their songs. I kind of think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it gets its point across pretty clearly.
Like, I've seen like symbolism, I've seen like paraphrasing, but I've never gotten a clear image of how trash someone's mouth is in my life. Like, I hate him right now. I don't know who he is. I hate him. AEMILIUS, I'm sorry. You sucked. Rest in smelly piece.
You might also like, it's too bad because there's so many very like explicitly erotic poems in this collection, but 69 is just about someone smelling bad. But you might like that one too. It's called Odorous to Rufus.
That's amazing.
I got distracted because I was scrolling through and there was one that I just like paused on briefly and then I was like, wait, what? Because it said, your virginity is not yours. It's 1/3 your father's, 1/3 your mother's, and 1/3 yours. So you better give it to your betrothed that your parents decided for you.
Yeah, that's one of the poems I do not like.
Rough.
So here's the thing, I don't support it, but that really explains their perspective in a really clear way. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's not that we support it, but at the time, like, women got you money. So if you were to marry off a virgin, you would get more money than if you were to marry off a woman who had sex previously. So because that's the only thing women were good for, if you ruined that, you were over your parents. Probably quite badly, especially if they were a poor family. So it's bad all around.
So here's the thing. I'm opening a whole can of worms and I don't know how not to. Why are people so fetishizing virginity? Because I imagine this is after or before. Well, this was after Jesus, right?
Yeah, but they wouldn't have been Christian. Maybe this is actually a little before.
What's the fetishism of virginity? I don't understand.
Honestly, I think part of it is that they
great partners.
part of it is that they wouldn't have diseases. I think that a lot of things like this are built out of like survival, and they wouldn't have things like syphilis, yeah, not Sisyphus, syphilis, or things like that would like spread to you and then your children. Like they would be clean.
I can't argue with that.
You know, but
I can't argue with that logic.
Like, also, it's like you want to make sure that those kids are yours, because if you're investing resources into like, raising the children, then you want them to be yours. Like very like
interesting. Like kids were such a market. When you had a boy, you had labor, but I guess women were not considered sufficient labor. So to them, really, the investment of having a daughter was marrying them off. So it's basically just stocks. Which, damn, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. And it changed based on the culture and based on the city within that culture. Like I know in Greece alone, if you happened to grow up in Athens, it was a very different life than if you happened to grow up in Sparta, even though they were technically both in like the same area. Like Sparta was seen as strange because women actually had like some rights.
Yeah. It's like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. But it's all different everywhere.
It's quite bizarre. Like, I'm glad. I mean, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I'm so glad to be born in this century.
Yes.
A lot of the centuries kind of sucked. And like, see, like...
even this decade, like, I feel like several decades ago, things were pretty rough.
They were pretty rough.
Yep.
Pretty rough. I mean, this culture is still pretty, like, around for a lot of people. But I guess we're in the lucky side of this century or this decade. And, like, the part that kind of bugs me is, like, how women were seen as simply that, to be married off to someone else. Well, like, dude, women do labor fine. Like, did they not capitalize on this at the time? Like I don't understand what the... how do I say it? How can you just not put your daughter to work, if that makes sense?
At other times, it was a status symbol. Like, if your women don't have to work, then it means that you're rich. Because the poor women worked. They had to. Like, it was just kind of the rich people who could afford to have their women not work, you know?
Yeah. I suppose, like, having your daughter be married off to someone rich is a more surefire way to move up in social hierarchy than to have a boy that can work hard. I suppose. I don't know, man. Like, since, like, running a family like a business is kind of hard. It's kind of pretty intricate. Yeah, I don't understand that culture. Thankfully, I'm not born into that kind of family. Which, frankly, I was, like, literally just, like, probably about 100 kilometers away from being born into that kind of family, so I'm pretty lucky.
Yeah, it is wild. And you're right. Like, it's looking at it from where we are today. I mean, obviously, like, I am a woman, but, like, there's studies where it's like...
You're a woman?
Surprise, I'm coming out to you as a woman.
Gender reveal, 100 subscriber special.
Surprise, I'm cis.
Okay, no pyrotechnics, though.
Yeah. Sure, I have on the wrong color shirt.
Podcast.
Anyway, my point being, like, the difference now that we know with like psychology between the sexes is quite small and negligible in a lot of ways. Like even in physical strength, like obviously men have like a small advantage, but it's surpassable. Yeah. And that's like the one thing that is like a natural, you know, obvious difference. I don't know. It's like, it's weird that such a very, very small difference caused such a rift in like human history.
And it
But
kind
you
of
could
like,
say the same with race and everything.
right? And it fed into itself for centuries and centuries and centuries, eventually becoming something. That's one argument I've gotten to a lot with people, where like, you know, like, sure, in general, men are stronger. Sure, in general, certain beliefs do hold. But when you go to individual cases, these things often don't matter. And like I've had arguments with people over like, oh, like women are afraid of men because men are strong, dangerous, they can hurt them. But in my head, like, dude, like a woman could whoop a lot of dudes' ass. Like I don't know. To me, it's like very old way of thinking of assuming a general trope to like a generally established belief of half the people on Earth to every single individual. Which at that time it made sense because yeah, your parents just ran the business, your parents fed you, and without your parents you die. Now it's like, all right, well, nah. Some girls like kickboxing, they can whoop your ass easy, not a problem.
Yeah. Suffice it to say, I'm glad I'm not living in Catullus's time.
Yeah. Not even just for this, dude.
Mm.
I like ordering from Amazon.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done. Like, argument over. This time sucked.
We will get to more Catullus and Sappho another time. We'll also get to poems in the 1600s and 1700s that flip the script and talk about, hey, women, lose your virginities. You're only young once. Seize the day. Why are you going into this ancient feeling of having to get married first? Whatever. Why don't you sleep with me? I don't know. We'll get into that soon.
Just throwing it out there.
But in the
But
meantime, like, comment, and subscribe.
Like, if you want more.
Tell us what kind of poetry you want us to talk about next.
What is your perspective on sexist issues?
How do you feel about frogs?
How do you feel about
frogs?
Do you ever eat a chestnut?
Or when?
If you do eat chestnuts, do you smash them or do you dig into them? Like
That's such a good point. How does one eat a chestnut?
We need to know.
Dig a hole in the middle.
Post a video response of you eating a chestnut.
Yes, we will watch that, absolutely.